Okay, so welcome everyone. This is the uh, CSF series, an interview with people who have had experiences with their own cerebrospinal fluid. So today we welcome Ashley Weiser. Thank you very much for coming today. Um, tell us a little bit about you, what you do during the day, and what made you contact me in terms of the cerebrospinal fluid.
Sure. So a little bit about me. um, so I'm going to start from the beginning because I feel like that kind of fills in all the gaps to the here and the now.
For sure.
Um, so when I was little, when I was born, I had this knowing of why I was here, and but it didn't seem to resonate with everyone around me, if that makes sense. So it was like more of knowledge of like God's law, and I was confused, like why are people kind of doing opposite or challenging it? And it didn't make a lot of sense to me. um, However, I'm sure anybody that's experienced that kind of goes through uh, a separation. We want to be like everybody else and fit in. So that leads to different experiences in life and kind of a disconnect from what you previously have felt. So I experienced that. um, I actually had two near-death experiences, and um, I self-healed through both of them, but it took a very, very long time and a lot of a lot of discipline, because I was very determined to get that connection back because I was like, I know why I'm here, and things just don't feel right, and my body's not um, optimizing itself like it should be. My mind, my body, like just something is off. um, so I had my two daughters, and they were a big inspiration for me. And I could see a lot of myself in them, and I'm like, well, I wasn't particularly, I didn't have those tools in my hand when I was a little girl. So I want to be able to provide those tools for them if they're to use them. And so that's kind of where it all started. After the near death experiences that I had, I came into a lot more gratitude for being here, for waking up
Mm,
each day. Um, you know, I don't look at them as like a victim or a trauma, like I don't get stuck in the trauma of it. So I'm just like a lot more grateful to be here. And that was life changing for me. So
that's
that's
beautiful.
kind of the foundational of how it all started. Now, the first near death was actually a car accident. And I had to do some, I guess we would call it like regressive work. I had to like work within myself over a long period of time, and lots of meditation, and just really feeling into myself and visualizing to kind of pinpoint what was going on. Because I spent 10 years in the medical field of different medications, just different diagnoses. And I was like, I'm not accepting this. Like right now, I'm supposed to be in a wheelchair and, uh, not be able to move freely. And I'm here and I can't. I'm grateful for it. So that's why I'm here today, because I want to share these stories. Um, but I knew there was something, because during the original diagnosis, when I was first taken in the emergency room, I had a brainstem injury, and injury in my cervical, like up in my cervical, and in my lower region, my lumbar. Um, so years after that, I was like, okay, there has to be more to this, because I know the brain stem is a communication center from the brain to the rest of the body, your central nervous system. And so, like, how do I heal this? Like,
Beautiful.
I wasn't getting answers from that. So I just took it upon myself to do as much research as I could find. I couldn't find a lot of research out there. It wasn't easy to obtain information on that to guide myself. So I did the best I could. So get little pieces of puzzle here and there and put them together. And then I'd kind of go into meditation and just kind of pull it all in until, I could figure things out, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely.
Um, yeah. And I'll elaborate more on the spinal fluid when we get there. But definitely.
What were some of the pieces of the puzzle that were most that sort of were, most important, or were the, obviously it's the entire puzzle, but were
Mhm.
there pieces that were like, big breakthroughs and stuff like that in your own healing?
Yeah, I feel for me, the biggest breakthroughs were on a spiritual level. So I had a lot of anxiety back then, and it was more so, okay, I need to like calm myself. I need to ground myself, get more in tune with nature again, so I can be in tune with myself. Stop seeking external answers and solutions to something that I need to figure out on my own. And that's how I looked at it. And so I started learning breath work and how to pull the breath different ways through the body and visualization during the process. Um, and then, I mean, that's when I really started feeling, you can actually like feel things moving through your body then. And that's when I started really connecting to the cerebral spinal fluid and realizing the power and potency of it within myself.
Wow. So it was through the breath that you connected with the, and when you say, some people don't even believe that you can feel the cerebrospinal fluid within us. Did you have a felt sense of that, of the cerebrospinal fluid? And if you did, what, how would you describe it as you knew that it was the cerebrospinal fluid?
So I was kind of skeptical about the actually feeling it part, but I was like, you know what? If it's possible, I'm going to do it because that's how I set my mind to things when I want to achieve something. So I'm like, okay, well, if I can feel it, I'm going to not give up until I do. Because like this, there's more to this. And again, I was I'm very determined. So the first time I felt it, I don't know how to describe it. I was in a very deep meditation. I always do a certain amount of breaths and like kind of like a cyclical breath thing before I even go into meditation to get myself into that state. And I could literally feel like kind of like energy going up my spine and then coming up and around. um, it felt warm. Um, and I felt like a clearing was occurring. And visually, I can see different colors, very bright, vivid colors through like my third eye. And I just kind of had like started feeling a very calm and like a knowing. And then sometimes, as I would connect more and more to it, I would kind of ask for clarification or signs of clarification, because, of what was actually occurring. And a lot of it came with some of the cognitive functions that I'd lost, or that were kind of impaired during that, like post accident. My memory was getting better. I was more on point, more focused than before, and I could connect. My connection with God, source, became strong again. And that was one of my main goals, because I was like, wow, this is something that I had no idea I was going to get here, and here I am. And yeah.
I mean, that's that's extremely powerful. When you say that your connection with God or source sort of reemerge, and since you had that when you were born, or you recognize you had that when you were young or a baby, was it similar to that, or was it sort of like a rediscovery or refinding of it?
It was kind of both. It was a rediscovery, but it was also um, it was just part of, I don't know how to describe it. It was very comforting. It
Mhm.
was part of who I am.
Mhm.
I am, are, and I don't know how to describe it. Just it felt so good. I was like, I'm back. Like I'm
Wow.
back. Yeah.
And
And, I released all of that like fear, a lot of fear that I may have had prior to that, just due to different experiences I've had in life. And so it was very powerful. Go ahead. What were you gonna say?
how would you describe the, was it, I don't want to put words into your mouth or anything like that. So, how would you explain or describe that the sensation of the cerebrospinal fluid, did it lead you to this connection? Did it accentuate the connection? Was it like a bridge or a conduit to the connection? I'm just curious what your total authentic experience of that is, in terms of, you mentioned the cerebrospinal fluid and then this connection to source, which to me is very interesting. Um, what is that for you, or does this, did the cerebrospinal fluid have anything to do with that?
I feel like it did. Absolutely did. It kind of, sorry, I have chickens running around
That's
outside.
beautiful.
You guys might
I
hear
love it.
them. They like to sound off all times of the day. But so I feel like it was the final. Okay, let me explain it this way. So I'm very grounded in connecting multidimensionally, right? Higher dimensions, and also at this time when the cerebral spinal fluid, like I'll call it like kind of like a final connect, or like you said, a bridge. Um, I was working interdimensionally as well. Um, so I was working on both at the same time, because I know you have to go into, for anything to my rooster's a little distracting right
That's perfect. I
now.
love it. It's
Jeremy,
reaffirming your statements. It's like, yes, tell him
I
more.
know.
Tell him more.
So, um, so yeah, it was like the final bridge. It's like I felt a lot more more clear communication, able to receive and give communication. So if that makes sense. So, and then at different dimensional levels. So with God, but then also with like I don't even know which dimension. I've gone up pretty high, like 12D, sometimes higher. So there's different layers, like angels, archangels, and yeah.
So when you do
Mhm.
that sort of trans-dimensional, interdimensional work, do you now, um, do you connect with the cerebrospinal fluid each time that, how do you use the cerebrospinal fluid now in your practice?
So so I'm gonna just say it how it is. So
That's it.
I program my body and my energy field,
Okay.
uh, as I work on things and master them. So for the cerebral spinal fluid, there are certain things that I'll do that it will automatically be flowing and connecting as I'm working on different dimensional layers. So it's like certain ways I breathe. Um, like squeeze the perineum, tongue to the top, tongue to the top of the mouth, and just breathe and really focus, and then it kind of just ups everything, re-ups everything.
Interesting. Fascinating. What is the cerebrospinal fluid then a part of your daily practice?
I intend for it to be a daily practice
Hmm.
thing. It isn't always.
Hmm.
It was for a very long time.
Hmm.
Um, so I again, as long as I always go live by this one rule with making excuses. So sometimes I might make the excuse I don't have time, because we all do that. But usually I make time. So even if it's just 5 minutes, usually I like to go into the meditative state for 30, 45, 60 minutes, just as long as I can. with, and sometimes it's challenging, with kids running around and distracting and mom, hey mom, I need this. And, they don't quite understand what you're working on within yourself and all around you. They do to a degree, but, they still need mama. Um, so that's kind of when I don't want to say it's an excuse, but, sometimes I have to stay up late after they're in bed, and then I can spend that time in meditation, really connecting. But now they're
Beautiful.
back in school, so now I can take time during the day,
Um,
here and there. Yeah,
yeah,
exactly.
yeah, yeah. So if you were to, if if I came to you and I said, look, I think I'm feeling my my cerebrospinal fluid move. Um, are there any what would be like the first practice that you would recommend somebody do that keeps them grounded and still has them sort of open up to this connection? From
Sure.
your
So
experience,
the
it
first
seems.
thing, yeah, sure. So sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. Just came right to me. The first thing I would recommend doing, even prior to obtaining that state, or connecting to your cerebral spinal fluid, make sure you're grounding yourself. And this is so important. And like I definitely ensure I practice this multiple times a day, and I tell everybody that it's possible. Go outside, take your shoes off, lose the shoes, put your feet in the grass or the sand or the dirt or whatever it may be, and just take a couple moments. If you don't have a lot of time, it doesn't matter. Just take a couple moments, take a couple deep breaths. Connect to the sun. That cleanses as well, because I practice what I call energetic fitness, and it's very, very important, to ensure that your energy field is clear, your aura is clear, but also that anything that's going on, within your body, physical body, is kind of charged off and transmuted through earth. So that would be my first recommendation. Just make sure you're really grounding yourself, because this is kind of a whole nother level of healing, and there also is responsibility involved with it. You don't want to just go jumping in and doing this stuff, because it's going to challenge you. It's going to challenge your mind, sometimes your sanity. You got to keep that faith. And you really have to stay grounded and centered during it.
That's beautiful.
The
That's
sun's
perfect.
changing on the
Yeah, yeah, no, no, that's great. Um, you mentioned your kids, and obviously they're a big part of your life. How old are they, if I can ask?
Oh, sure. They are 8 and 10,
Oh,
both.
wow.
Yeah.
And with your kids or other kids, I have kids. Um, how do you, if you don't mind sharing, how do you start to weave these things into their lives, or make subtle suggestions or even comments? Do you have any recommendations for other parents or caregivers who may have actually had very similar stories to yours, in terms of feeling that connection, losing that connection, coming back to it, and then having children and wanting them not to lose the connection, but maybe understanding that they're going to go through it too? Or
Yeah.
what recommendations would you give to other parents?
Sure. Let me add one little thing. It's actually a big thing. So I actually have a 21-year-old stepdaughter that I raised from the time she was 4. And then
Wow.
my partner and I, he has 3 kids. So we have 5 in the same house, and they range from ages 5 to 16. So they're all at different ages and stages of life, as kids. So with all of them, including my two that are still at home, I practice what I preach. So when I feel, because I feel and I sense things, and I use my intuition and I lead by my heart. So anytime I sense something, or just, things, energy is just off and it's affecting others, um, I'm like, all right, everybody, they might get annoyed with me. I really don't care. It's going to happen. I know one day they'll probably, one day they'll understand, but it's my responsibility at this point to guide them in the right direction. So you know what, everybody's shoes off, we're going outside. Whatever, we'll sometimes sit in a circle, like a shamanic circle type thing. Sometimes we'll hold hands, if I feel like, there's, issues between one another, kind of get that energy moving and talk about it. What's going on? Nobody's going to get in trouble. Nobody's judged here. Just be real about, what's happening. We want to get to the root of the problem, whatever's bothering whomever and why it's impacting everybody else. Every night before bed, I lead a prayer and set intentions. So I lead by example, you know what I mean? I really take that to heart. And again, and sometimes at prayer time, half of them are like, I don't want to do this. And I'm like, come on, you guys, please, please just cooperate.
2 minutes, right? 3 minutes.
But I think, and this is something I've observed in this day and age, is just a lot. And I'm not calling anybody out. I'm not. This is just something that I've noticed, parenting wise. A lot of parents seem a little bit out of touch, and they kind of just are letting kids on devices and not having those deep talks. And, because these are pertinent times of their development and their minds and their emotions and just everything. And they just need someone to hear them and feel them and know that they're safe and know that they're loved. They need that reassurance. And home, when they come home, like that's where it needs to be provided. That's the foundation for it. So that's what I do.
That's beautiful. That's so beautiful. Wow. Thank you so much for sharing your experience. Is there anything that you wish to, that you feel like maybe we missed, or any sort of final thoughts?
Sure. So this is a big thing for me too. So mental health and the healing abilities of the cerebral spinal fluid. So for me, having some cognitive issues from like my car accident, I had memory loss, became like kind of like a dyslexic state where I'd write, I'd go to write words and like the last couple letters I'd flip around, which I never did before. But over time I was able to kind of heal it. Right. And the anxiety, there's some depression associated with it at the time for years, after preceding it. And so I have a theory that the cerebral, there he goes, spinal fluid can be used, if used correctly, if guided correctly, guiding people correctly, to aid in healing maybe mental illnesses, improve mental health, like an overall well-being of your mental health. Because wow. I know, I just kind of work and help guide people that have serious mental issues, and medications are always being changed. And I'm not knocking, I'm knocking the industry a little bit, but what I'm saying is it just doesn't work and they have no quality of life. Mm-hmm. And there's a limitation to how deep of a healing they're actually receiving, or like it just doesn't get there at all. And if trauma, like different forms of trauma experiences in life, aren't addressed, people kind of get stuck there, and then they just loop and loop and loop and loop, and they don't get past that. And that's where I see a lot of people with different diagnoses that's kind of stuck in that, and then they accept that. They hear it so many times, like bipolar or schizophrenia or whatever. It's just like they accept that as their destiny, and that kind of that's where it stops. And they think that's just something,
mm-hmm.
Man.
Yeah. No, I'm with you. I do a lot of chronic pain management, and so there's a lot of mental health issues, and one of the things that we obviously resource grounding exercises, and then you know, we, you know, we talk a lot about the balancing of the central nerve, the autonomic nervous system with the parasympathetic and the sympathetic, yeah, through breathing and, getting the CSF in there with the breathing and things. But so many people are locked into their diagnoses, of whatever it is, and so working on that, working on the nervous system and the whole body. I definitely hear you. That's
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. I was one of them too. I was locked into, I had a myriad of diagnoses from the accident I was in. They're very bad.
I can't
Massive
imagine.
degenerative neurological issues, like all kinds of things
Yep.
going on, and here.
No, it's beautiful. I mean, if you have a
Yeah.
brainstem
Um,
injury, you're
yeah,
quadriplegic, right? You're
yeah,
wheelchair bound with an electric wheelchair, quadriplegic, in diapers.
yeah.
So, incredible, incredible, incredible. Wow. Well, um, thank you so much for sharing. I hope this, for anyone listening who may have had similar experiences or is interested in obviously the cerebrospinal fluid or connecting with the cerebrospinal fluid, and then again the importance of, as Ashley mentioned, the importance of those grounding exercises, the resourcing, being coming from a resourced place, being able to resource, being able to ground, and then slowly going to the connection with the cerebrospinal fluid, and higher dimensions, as Ashley mentioned. Um, that's beautiful. Thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm happy to share.